Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Lower Central Gardens Trust Board, which is being live streamed and will be recorded by the Council to support the production of the minutes for use of democratic services. In order for the meeting to be managed efficiently, please could everybody present follow the ground rules for speaking. Only speak when invited to by the chairman, mute your microphone when you're not talking, and I'll now ask each of the participants to introduce themselves and state their role. Starting with Councillor Bartlett.
Good afternoon, Councillor Steve Bartlett, representing Redhill and Northbourne Ward.
Councillor Bull.
Councillor Simon Bull, representing Winton East Ward.
Mr. Boone.
Hi, I'm Roger Boone. I'm a co-optee.
And I'm Councillor Lawrence Williams, and I represent Littledown and Iford. We have Councillor Green online. I don't think there are any other councillors online, are there, Nikki? No? Okay. We also have Andy MacDonald, Ian Pulteney, Stephen White, and Nikki Hooley, who's Democratic Services Officer and clerks of the committee. In addition, Democratic Services Officers are providing technical support to the meeting and will take no part in the appeal. And will take no part. Item 1, election of chairman. And that's to elect a chairman of the Lower Gardens Trust until the first meeting of the 2022/23 municipal year. So, do we have any nominations? Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Chair. Could I nominate yourself, Councillor Williams, for Chair?
Thank you. Any other nominations? No? All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 2 is the election of a vice chair. Do we have any volunteers or nominations? Somebody has to be the vice chair. Okay, Simon Bull.
Yeah.
I'll nominate you.
Microphone. Don't forget to speak.
Yeah. And can you put your microphone on? Right. Do you accept the nomination?
Happy to accept that. Thank you, Chair.
Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Nikki, do we have any apologies for absence for this meeting?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies have been received.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Bartlett.
Yes, thank you, and congratulations on your appointment, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I need to declare I am a director of BH Live and BH Live Enterprises Limited. And the reason I've mentioned that is because I see from the notes that the pavilion, which is leased to BH Live, is part of the charitable trust. So just for transparency, I declare that as an interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other? No. Okay. No other declarations of interest. Item 5, the forward plan. Who's going to offer that? No officers? No? Okay. Well, to agree items to be included in the forward plan of the board, can I, with the lack of any agenda, as it were, items, can I ask if anybody has anything they want to place on forward plan? Yes, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm not quite sure who has the responsibility for the lower garden, the maintenance of the lower garden's toilets, and that is an issue that I have some concern about. But again, it depends, if the trust has a responsibility for the maintenance. I'm not sure if they do.
Okay.
So perhaps we could get some clarification from the officers first, because if the trust is responsible, then it is something that I would like to put on the forward agenda. Thank you.
Perhaps Mr. McDonald, you can answer the question.
Yeah.
Is it something that's responsible?
Without being 100% certain, the toilets sit within the Lower Gardens Trust area, so I think they do fall within the Lower Gardens Trust remit. But they're not actually managed directly by my team, so that's...
Okay. Well, perhaps we can put that as an item going forward. I'd like to have a progress report put down as an item on a number of things. The cafe in the Lower Gardens, or the eating establishments in the Lower Gardens, and how the aviary is coming along and what the governance is regarding the aviary. That probably should be enough for at least one meeting. And you've got something, Councillor Paul?
Yes, we haven't, this committee hasn't met for an awfully long time. So really it would be very useful to cover the remit, how the gardens have been operating in the meantime.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure they've been managed very well by
Well,
Steve and
they're
his
still
team.
there, so they must have been, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also looking at the way forward in terms of environmental issues with the use of the gardens.
Totally agree. Thank you. Perhaps if officers can look at that, we can establish some answers at our first meeting in 22. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Chairman and members, if it may assist, and the other officers may wish to contribute, but I've looked back and appreciate you've not met for some time, but I've looked back over the previous meetings on items that were fairly routine, and it may cover some of the items Councillor Bull said, but there was one, for instance, the general parks update on a fairly regular basis through meetings, events updates that took place, financial monitoring, and clearly Stephen White, I think, is on the call, and the budget approval. So financial monitoring was quite a regular item, but clearly the approval of the counts is probably quite key, and I suspect Stephen White may wish to update on when the best timing of that would be. I appreciate it's covering an item later on, but I think, and I believe there were typically 3 meetings a year that you had. A couple of times there were special meetings that were scheduled, but those are items that I think were fairly consistent on most agendas.
Thank you for the clarification. I was going to propose, if my colleagues agree, that we look to have a meeting in January where some of this can be picked up. Seems like a reasonable thing to do, and it gives time to the Parks Department to research and come up with some papers for us. So I'd like to propose, please. Oh, yes, Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Chair. Just one other point for perhaps discussion at our next meeting, and probably was the hottest topic when we last met, I think probably 2 years ago, was the expansion of the ice rink. Everybody was singing the praises of what's been done during the winter months in the Lower Gardens, and it looks fantastic. But that we had a sticking point probably a couple of years ago, I think, actually, about everybody loves the ice rink. There was talk about expanding it and bridges over the paths to make the thing a lot larger, and looking at ways of improving drainage whilst it was up, so that ultimately when it was all deconstructed after Christmas, the ground was left in better order and gave it a better chance of looking like it used to coming up to the Easter period.
Okay, well, clearly we haven't had much in the way of Christmas in the last 2 years, but yeah, it's something we can discuss. Mr. McDonald, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Could you please just clarify what report you'd like to know on the cafes?
Just an update on A, who's running them, and B, how they're doing.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just a bit of a wide topic, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anything else you might think we should know? Thank you. Before I move on, does anybody else want to? Nope. Okay, so it says that item 5 should be a verbal report. Andy, do you want to give us any sort of verbal report or postpone it until the January meeting?
Can I please postpone until the January meeting, please?
I felt that I was
Yeah.
helping you there, right? So item 6, a verbal report on the membership of the board to acknowledge the changes to the current membership and vacancies within the membership of the co-opted members of the board. I'm not sure. Nikki, can you help me with that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously there has been a change in the elected membership for the councillors' point of view since the last annual council. Also, you'll be aware that Mr. Ouzil is not present. His term has actually finished with membership as he has served 2 consecutive terms of 3 years. And there has to be a clear year then between his last serving and being able to apply again. So obviously that'll be up to Mr. Ouzil then at that point if he wishes to do that. There is also a vacancy from when Rebecca left, which I believe was 2019. So that's been an existing vacancy for a little time now. So obviously there are 2 vacancies on the side of the elected membership. Obviously there is, as you're probably aware, the governance review of how trust boards will be managed in the future. And I think, Richard, Susan Zeiss is looking at that being started in the new year. Am I right?
Again, through you, Chairman, if I can give a quick update. So yes, certainly. So the Audit and Governance Committee took a paper in terms of the governance review arrangements, and the Director for Law and Governance indicated that she'd engage an external solicitor to do that work. That's hoped to be in January, and then it will clearly, that's for all the charitable trusts and the trust boards, and then carry out that work in terms of where we are, what the history is of each of them, and bringing that back. So there won't be anything, I don't think, for January, but I certainly would say probably an update as to progress of the following meeting to that, although that will not be, just to clarify, the conclusion of that item.
Yeah, I should probably declare an interest in as much as I'm Vice Chair of Audit and Governance, but that's as far as it goes. Thank you, Nikki. I'd like to pay tribute to Bernard Ouzil for all the fine work he did over the 2 terms he served, and look forward, perhaps in the future, to seeing him again. So that takes us to item 7, future meeting dates. I wonder if we can call on you, Nikki, to perhaps investigate a fairly early in January formal meeting that we can start moving along, and then one more before the end of the municipal year if we feel at that meeting we need it.
Yes, certainly. If I can bring in Stephen White in a moment just to talk about the accounts and when would be best in relation to the work up there, because obviously that is one of your main items of business, and then maybe bring in Ian or Andy to look at maybe the work that's going on the big scale of the council work that's going to involve the gardens, and if that would be relevant in relation to either the Winter Wonderland or the air show or whatever it may be, business coming up, that whether there's reports necessary around any of that, or the traders or the aviary, to look at maybe late summer, possibly for a next meeting, but just give you a bit of an idea. So maybe Stephen wants to come in first, if that's okay.
Yep, by all means, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, all. The audit is progressing well. The auditor is currently on leave and is back on Christmas Eve. And I have emailed her to ask her, can the accounts be ready by the 11th of January? So I would like to, ideally, we would have a meeting perhaps at the back end of that week. That's the week commencing bear with me, sorry, that's the week commencing the 10th of January. But that will all depend on what the auditor will say or otherwise. But we've got to get the accounts submitted to the Charities Commission by the end of January 31st, at the very, very latest. But I will say I will be in contact. I have emailed the auditor and I'm waiting a reply from her on Friday as to hopefully they're confirming that date, and then I will be able to progress perhaps through Nikki if we can formally set that up.
Yes, I was going to say that, Nikki, if you can perhaps suggest some dates. There's not that many of us. We should be able to get one date in that week.
Yeah, no problem. If I do that by day to circulate a couple of dates, if there's anything you definitely can't do, please let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to, obviously we need to give 5 clear days notice. So, Stephen, I don't want to put that under too much pressure for you in terms of the receiving that report, but we then need to give 5 clear days notice for the meeting of the board to include the papers. So when I look back at the previous 3 years of when you were meeting, you were typically meeting around the 22nd, 23rd of January. From the sounds of it, you want to meet perhaps a little bit earlier than that, maybe the week before that, but certainly not at the end of that week of the 10th. I think that would be too tight to get the agenda out and the auditor's report and other bits and pieces you might need.
Okay, I was working backwards from I believe the accounts will be signed off under a portfolio holder decision, and my understanding of that is that there is a 5-day call-in period from when the accounts are signed by the portfolio holder. There's 5 working days in which before that decision or that signature almost is ratified. From there on in, that is I said that becomes a ratified signature, and then from there on, I can then work on the accounts and then submit them through to the Charities Commission. So that's how I was trying to. Sorry, Chairman. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's something you and Nikki can sort out between you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Pooley, do you want to come in at this point? Have you finished, Stephen? Sorry.
Yes, that's for, yep.
Yep.
I need.
Thank you, Chair. I think for the first meeting in early January, the focus for officers will be to give you that update on toilets, a general progress report on the state of the park, and an update on where we are with the aviary. I think that's sufficient for officers to get together in time for what seems like it's going to be the second week of January when we get back.
Okay, and then Christmas we can perhaps add to the first meeting after that. That makes sense. Andy, is there anything you want to add?
No, not really. I think for me, it will be the state of the gardens after we've come out of the Christmas period. There are a few other things to add on to this. We'll be looking at some new bins later on, but I don't think that's important for January. And I can update on the trading, which has been particularly hard in the last couple of years and been quite topsy-turvy depending on COVID restrictions. But generally, the gardens have done well during this period. It's been very busy, but good. Yeah.
Good. Well, our thanks to your staff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so future meetings was the last item on the agenda. It's not on here as an item, but is there any other business anybody wishes to raise? No. Anybody online wish to raise any other business? No. In which case, sorry, was that somebody? No.
It was just a no thank you from me, Lawrence.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you, Michael. In which case, I'm very happy to declare the meeting shut at 2:20. Thank you.